All right, I'm going to show you how to get to your image and how to open Photoshop that you have downloaded and use that to edit your image. So the first thing is to make sure that you have downloaded it and signed in correctly. I think almost everybody has now, but just in case, that information is here in the Accessing Adobe Photoshop Windows Virtual Desktop Pros presentation. And you can get there from the Canvas assignment that we're working on, the correctly edited film scan, that is right here. Also, you'll want to know how to get to your film because you're going to need to download at least the image that you want to work on. So everybody's film is here in this folder, which is also linked from that assignment. From the folder, just look for your name and find the image that you want to work on. Let's see where the one I wanted to work on is. Okay, there it is. So from finding this image, now I am going to go ahead and download it. So I can click on the I can click on the download button, and it's going to download it to my computer. For my computer, my downloads show up right here. Yours may show up somewhere different. Okay, so now that I have downloaded that image, I'm going to go ahead and open Photoshop. I'm going to click on my applications, Adobe Photoshop, and then go ahead and open that. When it's open, I'm going to then show you how to open the image in the program. Because you've probably noticed that if you double click an image, it doesn't open it in Photoshop. It opens it in another program. So I can do this a couple different ways. I can click this little button that says open, and I can also go to file. So like these are the menus up at the top of the screen, file, open. I can also even like find the actual file and like put it into Photoshop. So all of those ways will work. And you can just kind of do whichever one makes the most sense to you. So you can see now I have my image open. I just found it in my downloads and dragged it in. Let me also show you how to use the open button. So if I just go to open, then for me, I'm going to go to my downloads because that's where I just put that image. And then there's the image that I downloaded, and I can go ahead and click open. Okay, so now that I have my image here, we're going to go through the steps for how to edit it. Okay, the first thing that you are going to want to do is to crop your image because there's extra information that is not your picture, like extra visual information outside of your picture frame. And so I'm going to do that using the crop tool. I'm also, before I even do that though, I'm going to recommend turning something off, at least while you're cropping, because it makes it hard to crop exactly. So you're going to go to view if you want to and uncheck this snap function. And again, what that allows me to do is like, get really precise without Photoshop trying to predict where I am trying to go. So I'm going to use the crop tool for this, which is right here. I can also type C on my keyboard to get there. Once I click on it, it is going to go to the crop tool will kind of like automatically appear around my image. And then I can carefully drag the corners until I'm right at the edge of my picture. I want to cut off as little as possible. If needed, I can rotate my crop. So like notice how, my arrows are straight if I'm just dragging corners. My arrows become curved if I move outside of the corner because, if your image is a little crooked, it may be necessary to turn it just a bit. So then trying to get this as accurate as possible. let's go back to 0. And lose as little information as possible. All right, let's try that. I'm going to hit check. And I did a pretty good job. I did kind of leave this tiny area up here, so I'm going to see if I can remove that. I'm going to hit crop again. And then, oh my gosh, stop showing me that video. Okay. And then try to just move it in like the tiniest bit and see if that'll work. Okay. Much better. Okay. Awesome. All right. So now, oh, another thing that you might have to do, depending on your picture, is you might have to rotate it. So if you need to, you can go to image, image rotation. And then you have these choices here. 180 would be like completely upside down. Clockwise, would turn it to the right. Counterclockwise would turn it to the left. And so I'll just show you, clockwise, you can see that happened. I can undo on my computer, Command Z. It might be like Control Z on a PC or a Chromebook. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I need to make this image grayscale, which might sound silly because it already looks grayscale, but it's in RGB mode, which is color. So I'm going to go to Image, Mode, Grayscale. It is important that I do this at this stage before I've started adding layers. It is okay to discard the color information. And I just do that because we don't want things appearing like green or purple, which can sometimes happen if we don't do this. Okay. So now next, I have my grayscale image. I can see that because it's gray up here. I'm going to go ahead and make it into a positive. So right now it's a negative, and things look reversed, black and white reverse. I'm going to go up to image, adjustments, and then invert, and it's going to make my values reverse. Ta-da! So now it looks like, more like how it looked in real life. The next thing I need to do though is it's pretty gray. And so most of yours are going to look pretty gray, when you open it. This is, how you address that. Okay. So, to get my values to have some more contrast, to get my darks darker and my lights lighter if needed, I'm going to create an adjustment layer. So one of the great things about Photoshop is that, you are able to edit in a way that's called non-destructive editing, meaning that if I at any point want to go back and undo something, I absolutely can. So the way to do that is to create what's called an adjustment layer in this case. And so I'm going to move my my mouse over to the very bottom of my screen. It's very small. It's in the extreme bottom right. And when I hover over it, this little kind of cookie shape says create new fill or adjustment layer. I'm going to click on that, and let's go to levels. Okay. So just one more time, what I did was I moved over to the bottom right, clicked on this little menu, and I selected levels. I'm not going to click it again because it already opened, but now you can see that I have this little properties window that pops up. I have this mountain shape that is appeared here. This is called a histogram, and it is representing all of the values in my photograph. And so what you can do is you can adjust basically these triangles that are at the bottom of the histogram to tell Photoshop to make the extreme values, like the darkest and the lightest, to change them. Okay. So I'm going to take this darker triangle and drag it over to right here, like where that mountain begins. And you'll notice in the image, you can see my shadows getting darker, my darks getting darker. And it really looks like a lot better already. So again, it started, excuse me, from over here, and moving this little triangle over to the right, substantially, makes that a whole lot better. I'm going to do the same thing with this triangle over to the right. So I'm going to drag it leftwards until it kind of joins the beginning of that mountain. And again, like already, has made this image a whole lot stronger. I can continue slowly to keep working on that to see if, like, do I want even darker darks? Do I want even lighter lights? I can also move this middle triangle to see, what that does. Okay. So other adjustment layers can be added, but before I do, I want to show you again kind of the exciting thing about non-destructive editing. So over here, it's kind of hard to see because it's so little, but like you have now your layers window. I have my background, which is the photograph itself, and then I have this adjustment levels, and the eyeball allows you to kind of see what that layer is doing, and turn it off if necessary. So if I click this eyeball, then I'm right back to where I started with my image, which is a really nice feature because, again, you're not destructing the original. You're kind of just adding changes that can always be undone at any point. All right, so I'm going to put that back and I'm going to show you, you also can explore different adjustment layers. So let's try one for brightness and contrast. Notice how it's made another separate level. I can explore like what happens if, I just adjust the overall brightness, maybe increase the contrast just a little bit. And sometimes, it can be hard to tell, like, hey, do I like this? Do I not like this? You can go down to the levels menu and turn it off and say, like, which one of these do I actually like better? Do I like it with the new changes that I made or without? Okay, so the next thing that I want to show you is removing any dust that may have appeared on your scan. So what I'm doing right now is I have zoomed in and I'm kind of scanning over the photograph to see if there is any dust. And there's a little. So, yours may have more or less, but, I'm going to show you how to fix it either way. Okay, so how am I zooming? On my trackpad, I'm just zooming in the way that you might normally. You can also, though, on your keyboard, Command or Control plus. Okay, so I'm just hitting Command plus. We'll zoom you in. Command minus will zoom you out. And a useful thing to know is that Command 0 will kind of make your image fill the screen. Like you'll see the whole thing. So if you zoom in really far and like kind of forget what you're doing, Command 0 will just bring you back to the original. All right, so I'm gonna start here. There's a little teeny tiny spot there that is probably from dust. Sometimes you might be like, I'm not really sure if this is just part of the picture or not, but either way, you're the photographer, so you get to decide if you think it's distracting or not. The way to fix little dust spots or other errors like this is to use something called the spot healing brush or the clone stamp. And I'll show you both. Importantly, though, you have to be on the background layer of your image. Otherwise, it will not work at all. So you have to be, right now I'm on this brightness and contrast layer. I need to click the background layer. Otherwise, again, it will not work. All right, so here's the spot healing brush tool. It looks like a little Band-Aid. I can click on that. And it brings up the circle is telling me how big my brush is. I can easily make that bigger or smaller, by the way, by typing on my keyboard. The brackets that they're like over near the delete key and the return key. So if I just type, left bracket, it's making it smaller, right bracket, it's making it bigger. And those shortcuts are kind of nice to know about. All right, so ta-da! I just clicked on it and it magically, well, I think it's kind of like magic. It used math to figure out like what that probably should look like. So I'm going to undo that so you can see it again. This is where we started. And if I just go over to it and click on it, it has kind of like averaged out what's around it and fixed that little error. We can do the same thing here. Bloop. And anywhere else that I see something that doesn't quite feel, like it should be there. Okay. This image isn't too bad. And again, some of yours, might have a lot more. By the way, the kind of like specks that you can see that are just making up the image, that's actually the grains of silver inside the film. That's what light responded to, and that's how we have a picture. All right, I'm going to fix that one. And then this little like tiny hair, seems like a good place to demonstrate the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool just gives you a little bit more control over what's happening when you try to fix an error. And it may be necessary sometimes because the spot healing brush may just not quite work the right way in some instances. So to get to the clone stamp tool, I'm going to click on this, the little clone stamp over here. By the way, both of these tools, the spot healing brush and the clone stamp, have additional options. So like if I click on this little like tiny triangle, it does have some options, and sometimes people accidentally turn those on, like with a trackpad, kind of an accidental scroll. So make sure you're in the clone stamp tool. We don't want to use the pattern stamp tool right now. And same thing for the spot healing brush. Like you don't want any of these. Why won't it let me get to the menu? Anyways, you don't want the other options for that. Oh, there it is. You don't want any of these other ones right now. There's great uses for all of them, but right now we just want the spot healing brush tool. Okay, clone stamp tool. Yikes, my brush is huge. Okay, so I'm going to make that smaller. I'm using my bracket. So what I want to do with the clone stamp tool is I'm basically saying like, here's what I want. It's almost like you're using your picture as a painting palette. You're saying like, oh, I like this area. I want to use that as my paint and paint it over this little spot. So it's really helpful to find an area that looks exactly like what it should look like. So I'm going to try to kind of copy this area and just put it here. So I'm going to, when you click option or hold option rather, it turns into this little target because you're saying like, this is where I want my paint to be from. All right. So option click, I've chosen that. And then it does give you a little, preview. And so, notice how that happens. And then I can just click and paint, right? So I'm using that as my palette. I'm going to undo that so that you can see it again. Okay, so I want to choose my paint, option, click, and then like when I hover over it, it previews. So it's sort of hard to maybe see what's happening because it looks like it already happened. But to actually get it to paint, I have to click and drag like as if I'm painting. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'll use the clone stamp also to fix this little part of the hair. And then, okay. Here's how we do that. So option, click here. And now I'm using this darker color to carefully cover up that. Awesome. Okay. So let's zoom out to see how the whole thing looks. I'm going to use my Command 0 to get to like the whole window. Also, Photoshop got a little mad at me because I was maybe scrolling too much, so that's why it's going super slow right now. There. Woo. Okay, so I think, we're looking pretty good. I'm gonna I see a couple other dust spots that I want to fix. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay. Oops. So right there, it looks like one. I'm going to go back to the spot healing brush tool. The spot healing brush tool will work in most situations. And then I'm just going to paint over that. Ta-da! I'm going to see if I notice anything else. There's maybe a little one. There's maybe a little one. This is always when I notice how dirty my screen is. Like trying to discover if it is it dust or is it dirt on my screen? And that can actually be that's why it's nice to kind of move the image around as you're looking so that you can tell if it feels like it's just something on your screen or if it's actually in your picture. And some of the things that I'm fixing might actually just be like, little parts of the tree. However, if they're distracting, then, it's okay to have fixed them even if they were actually really in your picture. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I don't know what that is, maybe. I think that's pretty good. Although I could kind of do this forever. It's a little bit soothing. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to save your image. You're going to want to save it in two different ways. One, as a Photoshop document, which will keep your layers intact in case you ever want to keep making more changes. That's important because you spent some time, making this right, and you want to make sure that you still have access to those layers later. So to do that, we're going to go to File, Save As, and you're going to choose on your computer, and you're going to put it in your Google Drive. So Google Drive, My Drive, and then I will put it right back in my Photo One folder, and as a Photoshop document. Except I think I already have one there, so I might need to, I'm going to put like a number 2 on the end. Okay, so just save it as, make sure that this says Photoshop, and hit save. You can hit OK. You can also hit don't show again for the maximize compatibility. So now it's safe in your Google Drive. I also want to save this as a JPEG. So File, Save As, save on your computer. Now the only thing that I need to change is where it says Save As Type. I'm going to hit that little drop down and choose JPEG. Just normal JPEG, not 2000 or stereo. So JPEG right here. And then hit save. When I get this options, I want to make it the maximum. So right now it's 8 quality. I want to drag this over to the right, 12 maximum, and then hit OK. And now that is also in my Google Drive. The JPEG is going to be that's what you're going to use with like your Google site or turning into Canvas. The Photoshop document is just helpful for when you want to make further edits or so that you have that. Okay. When you are done, please make sure to close Photoshop and also log out of the virtual desktop. So the way to do that is, I closed out of Photoshop by clicking that little X in the corner. Now, where it has my username, I'm going to click sign out. And that's really important that you do that every time. For me, it shows up then pick an account. Which account do you want to sign out of? I just click that one and it tells me that I have succeeded. Okay.